प्रसीद प्रसीद मातः जगतोऽखिलस्य प्रसीद विश्वेश्वरि पाहि विश्वं त्वमीश्वरी देवी चराचरस्य त्वं वैष्णवी शक्तिरनन्तवीर्या विश्वस्य बीजं परमासि माया सम्मोहितं देवि समस्तमेतत् त्वं वै प्रसन्ना भुवि मुक्तिहेतुः।
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. We continue with Devi Navaratri. Today I will speak about the second chapter in Devi Mahatmyam. In this chapter, the account of the killing of the army of Mahishasura, which has occurred in Savarnika period of Markandeya Purana, is depicted. Before I go into the actual subject, I would like to dwell on a very important matter of trying to understand the devatas, gods, deities, and all this terminology. Here in Devi Mahatmyam, Devi comes to protect the devas and the dharma, to vanquish the asuras and the negative forces, so that the devatas get back their power, position, administration of the cosmos. Again, the basis of anything I say is what Maharishiji has said in different contexts. I'm not expressing it word to word, but I'm taking the basis of it. Normally we see that Devata is expressed or interpreted in terms of God. The word Devata has been very wrongly interpreted as God. And this interpretation came from the foreign interpreters of the Ved, and they have created such great confusion. Calling the Devatas as gods, then the whole concept that there are many gods in Hinduism came along. And then it became a gossip that went into so many ignorant arguments. We understand the basis of all creation is Adi Shakti, who is the instrumentality of Paramashiva, or the transcendental eternal self. From her came all the manifested forms of the gods, the goddesses, and the devatas. These devatas are also referred to as Deva in the masculine form and as Devi in the femininity. One of the meanings of the Devas is shining, or the powers of light, or we also call them the impulses of the nature or impulses of the creative intelligence. And so essentially we can say these are the forces of nature and are involved in the cosmic administration. Maharishiji would refer to them as creative intelligence, and there are thousands of qualities of creative intelligence in the field of dynamism and thousands of qualities of creative intelligence in the field of silence. And this is what we refer to as 1,000 names of Shiva, 1,000 names of Vishnu, and 1,000 names of Devi, etc. The content of the Devata in terms of consciousness is diversity within the unity of silence. It is also the diversity within the unity of dynamism. So it is always the unity, whether it is the unity of dynamism or the unity of silence, and they are both one thing only, that is the unity. And the Devatas represent this diversity within the unity of silence and also within the unity of dynamism. These Devatas are present in the structure of the physiology, and they are the embodiment of the silence and the embodiment of dynamism. They are physical expressions, and they are physical expressions which have a form. In the Vedic literature, many of these Devatas are described. We begin with Shiva, Vishnu, Ganapati, and then there is the Devi, the many forms and many aspects of Devi, which all have a form. I want to continue referring to them as Devas and Devatas, and not as gods and deities. So for those who are not familiar with the words, it's better to write it down. Now the one God that we refer to as the Almighty, omnipresent and transcendental, is Paramatma, which is the transcendental eternal self, which does not have the form. And this is the absolute pure consciousness, which rules both the absolute and the relative. Here the word para means transcendental, and we also say Parashakti, which is also transcendental. And some of the gods like Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma and Devi, they also have attained the status of this para, transcendental. And then they are not referred to as in the form. So when we consider the Paramatma, or the transcendental eternal self, or Parameshwari, the transcendental eternal Devi, then we refer to that as God. Then the rest all in the forms are referred to as Devatas or Devas. Now we also have the word which is called Bhagavan, and Bhagavan literally means fortunate, divine, venerable, illustrious, and in general this word has been used for the avatars that came of the Paramatma. The avatars which came in the human form, like Bhagavan Krishna, Bhagavan Rama, Bhagavan Buddha, Bhagavan Shankar, Bhagavan Vedavyasa. And these Bhagavan has become the personal God, Icha Devata. Everyone has their personal God, whether it is Bhagavan Krishna or Rama or Ganesh or Devi, and in their various forms. Then there is also the other word that we commonly come across is the word Brahman, which is used extensively in the Upanishads. And here again, the Brahman is used for one who is fully enlightened and has attained the non-dual state, Advaita. So here one is in the pure absolute consciousness and sees all that is there, all the absolute and the relative as one self, and that one self is himself. So this Brahman then has in his awareness the totality of the absolute and the totality of the relative, which as we commonly refer to as 100% absolute consciousness and 100% relative consciousness within himself. But his consciousness, this is absolute for pure consciousness. So normally when one becomes 100% absolute pure consciousness, then there can be a body, because the body needs its elements, its natural elements and its gunas. And the absolute pure consciousness is beyond the gunas and beyond the elements. So one who has attained the status of the Brahman then has to have a small percentage of the relativity, which is called Lesha Avidya, or this minimal ignorance, in order to sustain the body and be able to live or exist in this world. And so one who has become the Brahman then keeps this body this way so that the work for the Loka Kalyanam can continue. Now I will just read a list of the Devas which we commonly use even while going through the Devi Mahatmyam and all. The first is Brahmadeva, who is the creator, Vishnu Deva, the sustainer, Shiva as the destroyer or one who causes dissolution. Then there is Ganesha, the deity of intelligence, Deva of intelligence, Hanuman. Then there is Kartikeya, Vayu Deva, the wind god, Varuna of the water and rain, Agni, fire, Samudra, the ocean god, Kubera, the god for wealth, Kamadeva, the Deva for love, Indra, the king of these Devas, Surya, the Deva of sun and light, Chandra, the Deva of moon and night, Mangala, the Deva of Mars, Buddha, the Deva of Mercury, Brihaspati, the Devata of Jupiter and teacher of gods, Shukra, the Devata of Venus and worship and teacher of Asuras, Shani, the Devata of Saturn and deeds. And there are many more, because these natural impulses are so many. We have so many Devatas. In reality, even if we say we call these as gods, it is not anything bad or offense or anything. It's not the right term. And then it is our responsibility to make sure that this confusion doesn't exist, that we have so many gods. When people don't understand the creation, the constitution of the universe, the administration, and the different manifestations that came on in order to protect this cosmos at different times, then they create a lot of confusion and a lot of unnecessary arguments. I will continue on this subject more on the creation. And also there was a question that came up as about the deluge that we saw in the Madhukaitava Vada, where Bhagavan Vishnu was in Yoga Nidra by the grace of Devi, Devi, who is the Yoga Nidra herself, caused this yogic slumber or the Yoga Nidra in Mahavishnu, so that during the deluge he could just be there with his senses retracted and just remained within the self. So there was some questions about the deluge and what happens after the deluge, and then why Madhukaitaba came out of the impurity from the wax of the ears of Mahavishnu. And of course, one of the questions was that, how can anything be born out of the wax? We see germs coming out, bugs coming out of the dirt all the time. So, and of course, there is always a reason how these asuras came, because there has been a previous mind, a previous karma, and they came and they have to come out this way. I'll go into a little detail tomorrow. So for now, if one wants to become a true devotee to Devi, then one has to become the pure self. And as Maharishiji has said, one has to free himself from those attributes which do not belong to him. And it is only when one can get rid of these attributes which do not belong to him, then one can have one-pointed devotion. And moreover, devotion is not something which can be practiced as such. It is the spontaneous display of a purified life, where one's appreciation of creation is so minute, so overwhelming, that this gets one completely surrendered to the Creator. When we refer to the purity of the heart, it means feeling every act, every thought, every perception as the grace of Mother Divine, the Bhagavati. So now, let us continue with the second chapter in Devi Mahatmyam, dealing with the killing of the army of Mahishasura, occurring in the Savarnika period of Markandeya Purana.